Ladies and gentlemen, Zurich is calling back from the stage in Dübendorf at the Swiss Innovation Park, and we have here today a stage where we talk about AI and education. Our next keynote will be held by Kate Maxwell, who is General Manager for the worldwide education industry at Microsoft. Before, Kate worked as Chief Technology Officer for the Microsoft Worldwide Defense and Intelligence. Kate serves on the board of directors for TechPoint Youth. That's a non-profit organization based in Indiana, which does connect underprivileged students with opportunities in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. In 2023, the Technology magazine named Kate #1 of the top 100 women in tech, and she holds a master's degree in system engineering from the George Mason University. If you have questions to Kate, you can also here scan the QR code, and then there will be a chat with you, and we will answer your questions in German and English. It's Kate's team who will answer that questions, so you can ask in German and English in the chat, and we will get your answers. Scan the QR code now, because afterwards you cannot see it here on screen, or you can also go into the application, go to the keynote, and there you will also find the chat. So I'm very happy that Kate is here today with the keynote Higher Education in the AI Era. Welcome, Kate. Hi.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, good morning, everybody. It's great to see you. It's lovely to be here in beautiful Switzerland. I've been here for a few days, so the jet lag has mostly worn off at this point. But I've been looking forward to this event, and it's been wonderful to listen to some of the other speakers this morning. Yes, I'm going to share some perspectives with you on how Microsoft is thinking about artificial intelligence and the role that it might play in higher education going forward. But as always, when we're at these sorts of events, I always found it far more valuable to listen and to learn from you all rather than to brief at people. So consider this an open invitation. My team and I are going to be hanging around in the back after this talk, and we'd love to have a dialogue with you. So if you have questions about Microsoft or our products or capabilities, questions about anything you hear in the talk today, or if you just want to connect with our team, please look for us in the back. And Microsoft crew, maybe if you could raise your hand just to identify yourselves. Right there. Look for us afterwards, and thank you again for everything that lies ahead. So let me start with some perspectives on artificial intelligence and where we're going with it at Microsoft and how other higher education institutions around the world are leaning into this moment. But before we go there, I'd like to share with you some reflections, perhaps on where we are as a people and a society and the citizens of the world. Because the truth is, every time technology is invented, it's not invented in a vacuum, right? It exists within the context of the world around us. And I think it's fair to say that we as a people have been through a lot in the last few years. A lot of it good, right? I don't want to paint a picture of despair. We've had incredible medical breakthroughs. We've had investments in climate initiatives that have moved the ball forward. We have seen social progress. Certainly much more to do, but progress is happening. And of course, big technology advancements, especially in the fields of artificial intelligence and quantum, which is something else that we're really excited about at Microsoft. But the reality is, on the flip side of all of these things, there are some really hard things happening in the world right now, and we have to acknowledge that. War in Europe and the Middle East, civil divide, rising inflation and tariffs and sanctions and trade restrictions, and I'll be honest with you, it's probably rich to hear an American citizen stand up here and say those things to you. Geopolitical strife that's underpinning all of this, and of course, which is leading to deglobalization. These are hard things, and they're going to exist for some time. I think we have to be realistic about that. In my belief, I'm an unfailing optimist. My belief is that as a people, and as citizens of the world and as a society, we have a choice to make in hard moments like this, right? We can choose to be crushed by the hard things that are happening around us, or we can use moments like this as fuel for innovation and see it as an opportunity to say, you know what, there's a lot of things that aren't working right now. Let's do something differently. And that's the part that I get really excited about. So I think for those of us in the room, For those of you in the room who support global education, which is a core pillar of society as we know it, I think that your role and our role is more important in this moment and right now than ever before. Because yes, we are in a period of turmoil, but we have the opportunity together to bring forward new innovation and to help people use technology in a way that hopefully makes their lives a little bit easier, especially in a period of hard times. Or maybe use this new technology in a way that reduces some of the day-to-day burdensome aspects of tasks, especially in education, especially in the administrative side of it, as an example. Right? We can use technology for good and to help bridge divides rather than actively contribute to them. And certainly history has shown us that this is possible. When we look back, we can see lots of examples of incredible innovations that changed the world as we know it, and many of these actually were invented and brought into the world during a period of really hard times and challenge. The printing press, the light bulb, penicillin, the internet, and the World Wide Web. These are just a few examples. Every single one of these innovations fundamentally changed the world as we know it, and they came during a period of hard times. But one of the great tragedies of innovation is that these capabilities did not change life for everybody on the planet because they didn't reach everyone at the moment when they are invented. Some of them still haven't reached everyone, literally hundreds of years after their invention. And so when we as humans invent something so incredible and so wonderful and so impactful, and then we fail to get it out to the people who need it, that is a terrible mistake on our part, and that means that we collectively have contributed to the divide rather than helped to solve for it. And I'll give you some satellite imagery that hopefully helps to illustrate this very point. This is what our world is going to look like tonight when nighttime falls in Asia, in Europe, in Africa, in the Americas. And here we are, more than 150 years after the world's first power plant was built in New York City. When you look at this map, you can see that 700 million people tonight in 2025 will not be able to turn on the light bulb that Thomas Edison first lit back in 1878. 150 years later. And most of those people who still don't have access to electricity, you can clearly see, are in Africa, where 43% of that continent still doesn't have access to electricity right now, tonight. So I think this is an example of a reflection that we need to spend time doing together as a people and as a society, and we need to use this as a source of inspiration as we work together to equip and empower the next generation of people to harness the power of technology for good. And so at Microsoft, when we think about this moment, especially in artificial intelligence, this is a big moment, right? And we are still in the very early days of generative AI. It is our belief that that artificial intelligence is the next great general purpose leap ahead technology innovation. The next great general purpose technology. It can change the world. It already is in many ways. And we collectively in education are a big part of that change. For those of us who serve global education, I do believe that we have a tremendous opportunity to use artificial intelligence for good and to translate AI value into real and meaningful impact and outcomes for students who are in many ways the customers that we serve in the education ecosystem, but also for educators, for faculty and staff, for research, and for institutions themselves, right? This is a chance to improve people's lives and to address some of those burdensome aspects that we see happening every day in the educational ecosystem. And we have to work together across public-private partnerships to make sure that we are using AI to actively address and mitigate the divide rather than contribute to it. And that, quite honestly, is going to be the hardest part of everything we do, but we have to pay attention to it. And so to all of you, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for what you're doing. We appreciate your feedback at Microsoft. We're trying to approach this moment with humility, and we need to hear from you who are on the front lines of rolling out AI adoption in your universities and with students. We welcome and encourage your feedback, and we welcome and encourage regulation in this moment and all the moments to follow. So thank you for what you're doing. I want to share some very early stories of impact around the world for how artificial intelligence is starting to be used in the education space, hopefully as a source of inspiration. So let me start in Taiwan. The National Taiwan University is now using an AI-enabled language learning platform to provide fun and personalized conversational English language agents and skills to their students. And this is all about helping those students become more conversant and fluent in the English language to help prepare them to work in a very competitive and global economy. If we look at Australia, this is one of my favorite use cases so far this year. In Australia, there's a school system called Brisbane Catholic Education. And they worked with us to run a 10-week Microsoft Copilot trial, and they saw their teachers on average save 9.3 hours per person per week. That's incredible. And what time that's being given back there? That's time that teachers typically spend outside of the classroom, on nights and on weekends. They can get some of that time back. Those teachers can then use that to invest in themselves, in their personal development, in their well-being, because we know that many teachers are stretched too thin. And it gives time back for those teachers to do what they do best, which is that personal student engagement. In the UAE, the Ministry of Education in the UAE has been very innovative and forward-leaning in how they use AI, and they're starting to employ an AI tutor, like we heard from the prior speaker, that is adapting to each student's unique needs, each student's unique pathways, their interests, their learning levels, and any abilities or disabilities that they may have. And the ministry sees this as a way to essentially provide 24/7 support to every single student in the entire educational system in the country, and they see it as an equity angle. There are lots of families who can afford a private tutor in the UAE, but not every family can. And this helps to create a more level playing ground for those families who perhaps can't afford that resource. Right here in Switzerland, I want to give a shout out to the International Institute for Managed Development, IMD. They are revolutionizing business education, especially for executives, through scalable, personalized learning journeys through the power of artificial intelligence. And what we're seeing is that their approach is boosting participant engagement in a personal way. It's giving hands-on experience with cutting-edge tools that those executives and leaders are going to use in the workplace, like M365 Copilot is one example, and that is better preparing those students and those leaders for an AI-enabled workplace and future. If we move to Latin America, in Brazil, this is another fantastic example. Seduc Sao Paulo, massive K-12 school system, they are using artificial intelligence to help with student assessment, essentially on the front lines of it, right? And so what they are doing is they are trialing essay grading at scale with the use of artificial intelligence to help. And now they have AI doing a first round of assessments on more than 3 million essays on a monthly basis, which is helping those students to get very personal and very rapid feedback, faster than what they would typically get from a teacher, for instance, because there are so few teachers for that many students and essays. So that gives the students real-time feedback. It also means that the final essay that they deliver to the teacher is going to be a better product. They've learned from that feedback, and it saves time for the teachers so they can, again, focus on the student engagement. And the final example I'll give on this slide is in Broward College in the United States. So they are using artificial intelligence to address one of their very real problems that they have on their campus, which is student attrition. They serve a very socioeconomically diverse population, a lot of first-time college students, a lot of folks who are perhaps returning to college later in life, and they want to make sure that every single student can get to graduation, but they had a high attrition rate. And so they wanted to use artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques to understand what was behind that. And ultimately, they found 5 key predictors that were driving attrition. They used that to make some data-driven changes to their programs, and they're also engaging students in a more personalized manner through artificial intelligence across the entire student life cycle. And now they're seeing more students ultimately get to graduation, which creates economic impact for those students and for their families and the community and the state at large, which is pretty incredible to see. So those are just a few examples, truly. And again, I'll say it, this is early days. I think we are all learning together. I'm excited to see the pilots that are happening, and we're going to keep an eye on those to see where the successes are and where the challenges are. But what I will say is that schools and academic institutions around the world are leaning into this moment. Many of them are not waiting. And I'm happy to see that. And they're learning as they go. And typically, when these schools and institutions lean into AI, they think about this in terms of use cases regarding saving time, increasing operational efficiencies, and offering better experiences to the students that they serve and to their faculty and staff as well, who essentially are also customers of the university. So as we think about AI in education, there are still a lot of questions. I know there are, and we're going to talk through what some of those are, and I'll share some early research with you on the effects of AI on learning and cognition and creativity. But one thing is something that we know for sure already, which is that AI literacy is an essential skill for everyone in the future. Every single job is changing and evolving with the use of artificial intelligence. This is not just about the deep tech roles anymore, nor is it only about the information workers of the world. And so we, as an education ecosystem, need to make sure that we're preparing students for success in a world where they're going to leverage artificial intelligence as part of their day-to-day job function. That is a guarantee. And so I'll share a few statistics with you to set the scene. There's a recent Forbes study that says that 85% of students who are in grade school today will one day perform a job that hasn't even been invented yet. I have a 5th grader and a 7th grader at home. How do I, as a parent, prepare them for roles that I don't even know exist yet? Studies from the World Economic Forum estimate that the world's going to require 23 million new IT jobs by the end of this year alone, 2025. But only 36% of the world's demand for tech-skilled employers are being met today. So there's a massive gap between the need and where we currently are. We also see that workforce and workplace skills themselves are changing. 82% of leaders surveyed across all industries around the world say that their employees need new skills to be successful in the era of artificial intelligence that we've now entered. So these are interesting statistics, but I think if you look at them in aggregate, what it really says is that the future workforce is increasingly technology-enabled, and there is a digital skill gap that desperately needs to be filled here. I want to dig in on that 82% stat just a little bit more, because I think this is the really interesting part of it. This is from a study back in 2023, the Work Trends Index in 2023. And we surveyed leaders and we said, what sort of skills do you expect your employees to have in this new era of artificial intelligence? And we thought they were going to come back and tell us about all of these technology skills. And instead, they cited human skills that are needed to be successful in the era of AI. Analytical judgment, flexible mindset, emotional intelligence, creative evaluation, right? They said that people need to learn and figure out, sometimes on their own, when it's important to leverage artificial intelligence in their job and how to adapt it into their everyday work streams and tasks, whether they are a tech or information worker or not. They said our people need to learn how to write effective prompts, how to analyze AI outputs, how to check for bias. Again, like some of the examples we saw from the previous speaker, these are the modern skills that are essential in the era of AI. And we are already seeing artificial intelligence start to reshape work on a daily basis. And AI literacy is critical for the next generation of talent, and human-AI collaboration is going to be a key skill moving forward, especially as we take a more agentic approach in the workplace. So if we fast forward the clock a little bit, let's now look at the 2025 Work Trends Index. So this is just 2 years later. And I think unsurprisingly, one of the things we saw is that the adoption of artificial intelligence by individuals, by employees, by companies, it has grown tremendously in the past year, by leaps and bounds. We also see employers increasingly prioritizing AI literacy, not just on the job, but when they hire. When they're actively putting job requisitions out into the world, they are now requiring these skills. 83% of leaders now tell us that they think AI is going to enable their junior talent to do more strategic work earlier in their career. So they're requiring these AI literacy skills, and they're telling us this is going to be a key accelerator to help my talent gain the edge that gets them ahead in a job market, and have accelerated success in the workplace. So just coming back to how Microsoft is thinking about this moment, this is our CEO, Satya Nadella. He cares deeply about education around the world, and especially so STEM education, as you might expect. And Satya himself has said, there is no better time than now to reimagine education and how technology can support that transformation. I think we need to be thinking about that all the time, but especially so in this era of artificial intelligence. And when we think about the AI literacy and all of those skills we just talked about that are required for success in this new era, education is at the heart of that, right? Education is at the heart of all of that skills development that is needed all around the world for the current workforce and for the future workforce. And that's true in K through 12 education. It's true in higher ed. It's also true in adult education initiatives, workforce re-entry initiatives, upskilling and reskilling on the job. And so our belief at Microsoft is that AI can and will transform education, and the opportunity space here for education institutions is enormous. Now, in my job, I have the joy and the honor to sit with a lot of institutions and talk to them daily about their artificial intelligence strategy. And what we see is that some are fast adopters, and they already have 1,000 use cases picked out, and they are leaning in. And then we see others who, quite honestly, are maybe feeling a little bit of analysis paralysis in this moment, because they're hearing all the buzz, and they're seeing all of these thousands of use cases pop up, and they're like, boy, I don't even know where to start. This is a target-rich environment. And so one of the ways that we help to address that analysis paralysis is this. We try and simplify it a little bit, right? If you abstract out a layer, almost all of the use cases for artificial intelligence and education can be summed up in 3 key buckets: accelerate learning, improve efficiency, and prepare students for the future. That's it. And if you look under the hood, within those buckets, then you can start to see a lot of different use cases emerge. I won't drain these, and I'm sure you have many more ideas, in fact, than I do, because you live this every day. But let me give you a few just to set the scene. Developing new and personalized learning tools, providing aids for creating content or course curriculum, building AI literacy into every single program of study, improving student services and managing the overall student life cycle a little bit better or more effectively, simplifying all of these dull and mundane and typically very manual tasks that are perfect for artificial intelligence, scheduling, administrative workflows, right? Those sorts of tasks, and of course, sparking innovation and accelerating discovery in the research space, which is also a tremendous opportunity. So no matter where you are on your AI journey, and no matter where your institution is, if you ever feel stuck, or if you ever wonder, what's the next big use case we can pilot or trial, I would say start with just those 3 key buckets and look for your unique opportunities and challenges and pain points at your university, and then pick some early use cases that are relatively low risk, but where you can get some initial gains and wins and ultimately learn from and build trust and refine your approach. And by the way, I'd love to hear from you. What use cases are you finding to be the most compelling? On the flip side, which are the ones that are the most challenging? We'd love to have that conversation. Now, another thing that we frequently hear when we talk to education AI leaders, they tell us that they like to think through this from a use case and scenario perspective, but they also want to think about this from a persona perspective. Because there are lots of people that are involved in the everyday campus life. How do you touch each of them in different ways based on their needs in this moment of artificial intelligence? And so here's a few examples, but looking at them through a different lens, which is persona-based. So we'll start with students, obviously, and I'll give you one example here. The University of Michigan is enabling students to engage with custom AI assistants. So you can think of it like an AI tutor bot, but also a school assistant to help them with their everyday in the campus life. It's giving them more personalized learning experiences. It's helping to answer questions, even in the middle of the night, if they have a question related to an assignment, and the models are all trained over their corpus of course materials. If we turn to faculty, Joint Universities Computer Center, or JUCC. So they are improving productivity for their faculty and staff and they're amplifying impact by automating a lot of the dull and mundane and really tedious tasks that nobody likes to do, but that takes a whole lot of time. So a couple examples of that. Research. They really want their faculty to focus more time on deep research, and so they're trying to take the administrivia out of their hands and even help them with simple tasks like grant writing that researchers frequently don't like to do, but it's an important part of their role. Moving on then to research, I'll give you another example. Linköping University in Sweden. So they are accelerating discovery and publication by enhancing a lot of common research tasks related to archive search, related to literature review, and they're doing it with enhanced AI-enhanced search and insights, and providing references as well to make sure that the content is trusted. At Cal State University San Marcos in the United States, administrators are finding that they can unify and essentially fuse data from a whole bunch of different sources and help to enhance student life cycle management across the entire life cycle of the student all the way into their alumni experience, using AI both for personalized insights about each unique individual and also to reach out and communicate to them in a very personalized way. And of course, for IT staff and security staff, the University of Sharjah is improving their security posture with AI-supported security automation and also much more rapid incident response. We see a lot of security operations centers around the world that don't have enough cyber resources and manpower. If you can put artificial intelligence in the hands of those researchers, of those security personnel, suddenly they can respond to incidents and have a better view of their overall telemetry under much more rapid time cycles. And so again, these are just a few examples. There are thousands more around the world. We're still finding new use cases for different personas on a daily basis, but we look forward to hearing from you. And these, the benefits of these are continuing to be learned and felt. Now, I'm a computer scientist. I'm a software engineer by background. I can nerd out with the best of them. I think the research use cases are some of my favorites that we hear. And I'll give you one recent example that I think is a little bit mind-blowing. Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, PNNL. So this is the United States Department of Energy lab. It's actually homed not that far from our Microsoft headquarters in Redmond, and they do a lot of research with universities all around the world. And they recently came to us and they said, hey, Microsoft, we need some help. We are working to identify new materials for more efficient energy storage. And essentially, we have 32 million different possibilities that we want to analyze. We don't have the resources to do that in a timely manner. What can we do with these modern technologies that are available? And so we worked together with researchers at PNNL and the universities that supported this research. And ultimately, the outcome of this was the identification of a brand new material, not native in nature, but which can be synthesized in a lab, that has huge potential for much more resource-efficient energy and power storage. And the researchers were delighted about that, but what they were even more excited about, interestingly, was the amount of time this took. Because they said, if we had analyzed those 32 million potential energy storage materials, with our legacy methods of doing it, it would have taken us 20 years of compute and research to get through, and we were able to analyze all of those in 2 weeks' time with a combination of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and HPC. 20 years down to 2 weeks. That's an incredible time savings. And so that is just one example. We are super excited about the opportunity space for artificial intelligence to accelerate those innovation outcomes. And I think the biggest opportunity exists in very computationally intensive fields. So think weather, chemistry, material science, energy, and so many more. Now these, again, were just a few examples of the impact that's already being helped, but I will reiterate, this is the early days, super early days. And I think that we collectively have a lot of questions, important questions, that we need to answer in the years ahead so we can truly understand what's the long-term impact of artificial intelligence specifically on students. What is the impact of AI on human learning, on creativity, on cognition, right? I think it is, quite honestly, I think it's too soon to answer any of those questions with any degree of certainty, but we need to make sure that we're continuing to study this and adapt and evolve our approaches with AI in the classroom based on these results. And I'll give you 2 examples of recent studies, again, with the disclaimer that this is very, very early days. One recent study, this was out of the University of Toronto. They took a look at the different ways that you could leverage artificial intelligence as tutor bots in the classroom. And what they found was, it is very important that we train those bots to operate as coaches or tutors rather than just giving the answer to the student. And that seems kind of obvious when you think about it. But this was one of the very first randomized experiments on large language models. And they saw that, yes, in fact, the use of those tutor bots did positively impact learning as long as they coached the students and provided explanations instead of just giving the correct answer. Another study, and this is probably 2 months old at this point, lots of information on the web about this. This was a World Bank study that was recently conducted in Nigeria that yielded promising results for educational outcomes. So what they did was, over a period of 6 weeks, they randomly selected students in classrooms in Nigeria. This was a pilot program of 800 secondary students across the country. And for the randomly selected students, they each got access to Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, in their computer lab with a teacher in the room twice per week. So they didn't have it all the time, just twice per week in a computer lab. And they were guided by the teacher to use Copilot and to write prompts to help them tackle select topics. So they specifically focused on language skills, English language and grammar as an example, but they also experimented in other fields as well. And at the end of this 6-week pilot, the students then took a traditional test on pen and paper to see how their results scored in the random population versus the rest of the population. And the results were overwhelmingly positive and surprising in a couple of ways. So the students who were randomly assigned to participate in the AI pilot significantly outperformed their peers, and their scores improved almost 0.3 standard deviations, which is the equivalent of 2 years' worth of learning in a 6-week period. That was a stunning development, and one that I don't think anybody expected. We also saw that AI can be a very important tool from an equity perspective. So one example of this is, there were some girls in this random pilot program who typically were seen as being hesitant to raise their hand in class, and their scores historically lagged behind a lot of their male peers. But once they had a Copilot in their hands, they started asking questions at a much more rapid clip, and they were getting help from the Copilot about things that otherwise they might have kept their hand down and not asked at all in the classroom. And their scores outperformed even their male peers by the end of this period. So there's potential for this to be an equity uplifter as well. And I will tell you, just based on my own experience, as a computer scientist, I was the only woman in my college graduating class amongst 40 guys. I had those moments too, where I didn't want to raise my hand. I already felt like the outlier. I certainly didn't want to show myself off as not understanding something. If I had had access to an AI tutor at that point in my life, I am sure I would have asked questions that I would not have otherwise asked. So again, this is not an overly conclusive study. I think that the results are positive. I think we have to keep an eye on this space. I think we also need to keep asking questions. And some of the most important questions I would offer that still remain to be seen are, what are the long-term effects of artificial intelligence as a learning tool? These are short-term studies. What's this going to look like 5 years from now and 10 years from now? How are students benefiting from this over the long term beyond just the immediate learning gains? How do their interactions with large language models evolve over time? What is the role that educators can and should play in supporting those interactions? How do their social skills change as they're essentially having conversations with AI agents and bots and tutors? And are there any negative or undesirable effects here? And if so, how do we mitigate those? I don't have answers. I don't think anybody does. But I think we as an ecosystem need to keep an eye on exactly those questions and do whatever we can to get these answered through studies and then adjust course accordingly. So we welcome your feedback in the years ahead. Obviously, you are the front line. You're working with students on a daily basis. I'm sure you have studies going at your own universities. We'd love to see those results, and we welcome your feedback and guidance in the years ahead. Now, I think it's fair to say AI does represent an enormous opportunity for education, and I believe for the public sector at large, But there are a lot of challenges that go along with this too, and we have to talk about those in equal measure as the opportunities in order to address them. And I recognize that Microsoft, and I'll just say big tech at large, there's a lot of skepticism that is aimed in our direction right now, and quite honestly, rightfully so. And I respect that and I appreciate it, and I think we have to call it out. So at Microsoft, we are committed to the opportunity space with these new technologies, and we're also committed to listening and learning from you and building trust with the customers that we serve across all industry segments, and especially so here in public sector, where we have an opportunity to do a lot of good. So yes, I think we, as a people and a society in the world, are in a period of tremendous change right now, and some of that change is painful, quite honestly. And with change often comes uncertainty and skepticism, and that's skepticism about the technologies and also the companies that bring them into the world, and that's okay. We welcome that feedback and we welcome your regulation. So I'll give you a couple of examples of how we are listening to understand and taking action on it. The first example is in cybersecurity. So we have, hopefully you've heard about, a new initiative at Microsoft that's called the Secure Future Initiative. We actually announced it last year, and this is something we've been leaning into heavily in the recent months. We now have the equivalent of 35,000 full-time engineers working solely on cybersecurity. That is the largest cybersecurity project in the history of the digital world as we know it. And this initiative is our commitment to you and the market and a critical infrastructure around the world that cybersecurity is our top focus above all else. I say this to my team all the time. If you are faced with a choice between cybersecurity or something else, always choose cybersecurity. And we live that on a daily basis in engineering and all organizations in Microsoft. We have also heard the concerns of the European Union. It is not lost on me where I stand right now. And we want to have this conversation with you and all of Europe. We commit to upholding Europe's digital resilience and protect the privacy of European data even in times of geopolitical stability. I would say especially in times of geopolitical instability. So we're working to increase trust and to provide digital stability to you in these unstable times. And as part of that commitment, we continue to make sovereignty investments to our customers. If you haven't checked out this blog post or watched the video of our President Brad Smith in Brussels 2 weeks ago, I highly encourage you to check it out. And matter of fact, he's going to be here in Switzerland to continue that conversation in June. This is especially important during a period of geopolitical instability, and especially so as the pace of change in technology and AI adoption continues to accelerate. We have to get this right, and this is going to be a moving target, and we know it. So we aim to help, excuse me, we aim to help our public sector customers, including education, and also including government, and defense and intelligence, and healthcare, to balance national strategic objectives with sovereign considerations. And basically, that means that governments and educational institutions must adopt an operational framework that helps make the balance between security and data protection, and efficiency, and innovation, and cost effectiveness. And those are 5 things that historically are very challenging to balance, but we have to work on that together. And so at Microsoft, Brad said it in Brussels, and I'll repeat it, we are committed to complying, of course, with all applicable laws and regulations in every market that we operate. But I'll tell you what we don't do. We do not comply with extra legal directives, and we have 50 years of experience successfully challenging unlawful actions in court in order to protect our customers and your data. And we're going to keep doing that. We defend you, we defend our customers, we defend our data from every government on the planet, including the one in which we operate. So we're proud to offer the best-in-class sovereignty controls in the industry. That includes data residency in more than 60 data center regions in 38 countries around the world. We also provide a lot of both software and hardware-defined capabilities that help you classify and control access to your data, including capabilities that take Microsoft out of the trust chain altogether. We couldn't access it even if we wanted to. And so we're proud of that. We're, of course, committed to complying with EU regulations, and that includes enabling customers to have greater control over their data and your data. And that's true with EU and with EFTA both. So if residency and sovereignty and regulatory compliance are top of mind to you, and I hope they are, they should be, that is top of mind to us as well. So I encourage you to check out this blog post, Please check out Brad Smith's speech in Brussels from 2 weeks ago. He speaks much more eloquently on this topic than I do. And I would also encourage you to check out our announcement around the fact that Microsoft is now storing and backing up all of our source code in Switzerland, which is yet another part of our commitment to sovereignty and protecting data. So what I would offer is this, as we approach wrap up here. This moment in artificial intelligence, it should serve as a call to action for all of us, together, collectively. This is going to be a group effort for years to come. And we at Microsoft do need to better understand you and your challenges and your needs and your opportunities and your concerns. We need to take your feedback. I am actively asking you to share that feedback with us. And we're not always going to get it right. And we want to lead with a growth mindset in this moment and all the moments to follow. So tell us. That's my ask. And we will listen and we will do our best to answer it. We continue to commit to trustworthy and responsible AI, to security, to safety, which is especially important in the educational space, to privacy and sovereignty, and of course, equitable access to cutting-edge capabilities as they are brought to market. And public-private partnerships are going to be essential here. We have to work together to meet this moment and to meet the needs of our customers across all industries. And if we do this together, especially in the public sector, I'm optimistic, and I look forward to a day when equitable access to modern technology is a reality. What we are delivering to the world with artificial intelligence should not be the next light bulb moment, right? The moment that changes everything for some, but leaves hundreds of millions of people behind. We can't afford that as a society and a planet. Artificial intelligence is the next great general purpose technology, and it is here. And yes, these are the early days, but it is moving quickly. And so we need to act together now and continually in order to develop and deploy this in a responsible fashion. And so again, we welcome regulation from governments around the world. We welcome your feedback. It is imperative that we work together across these public-private partnerships to get this right. And that includes partnership with industry and academia as well, to make sure that AI is democratized and made available to the world at large as a tool that ultimately bridges divides rather than contributes to them. So we have work to do, is the short story here. We have a lot of work to do, and we hope to do it together because this work matters. So, excuse me, at Microsoft, we are committed to working on this with you across those public-private partnerships, and we want to bring AI and compute to the world in a responsible fashion and make sure that nobody is left behind. And when we say that statement, what does that mean? That requires us to invest in markets all around the world and be thoughtful about it. And so we want to improve people's lives in every market. We want to get this capability out to people. And so we're working with rural hospitals in remote school locations around the world. We're working with underprivileged schools in communities where technology is not easily accessible. We're focused on the global north, and we are focused on the global south. And to me, that's the most exciting part of all of this. I am a computer scientist. I can nerd out with the best of them. This is the best part because this moment in AI is absolutely incredible, and this moment is about far more than just the technology itself. We cannot lose sight of that. This moment is about what artificial intelligence can do for people and for the economy and for democracy and for the planet, and we have to take that seriously because what an incredible opportunity we have to make a difference together in worldwide education and in the world at large. So as I leave here today, again, I encourage dialogue. Please come find me and my team in the back. You're welcome to send me a note on LinkedIn. I want to share a couple of resources with you that my team has put together, hopefully to help inform this moment. And we're seeking your feedback on this, because this is really just the first draft in many ways. So 2 resources. The first is our AI and Education report. This offers some practical guidance and real-world case studies from around the world, hopefully to serve as a source of inspiration and learning. The second is our cloud and AI adoption roadmap, specifically focused for higher education leaders. This is a new resource as of about 3 weeks ago. You can think about this as a planning guide and resources to support the adoption journey, specifically within higher ed. It includes a whole bunch of free skilling resources that we make available through the Microsoft platform as well. So these are freely available to download. You're welcome to grab them at your discretion. And again, we look forward to your feedback. and reach out if there's anything we can do to support your journey. So thank you again for being here. Thanks for allowing us and me to be a part of this awesome event. Thank you for everything that you all are doing for Europe and for the world at large, and thank you for the impact that you are making for students around the world. It is appreciated more than I can say. On behalf of Microsoft, thank you very much. Thank you.